Live from the Business Radio X studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and we're still virtual. We're not back in our studio inside Renaissance Bank at the moment, but we're hopefully heading that way sometime soon. But in the meantime, we still love the folks at Renaissance. They've been great for the small business customers that we know about that they've worked with. And we'd encourage you, if you want a more personal experience with your business banking, to give them a call. Go set up an appointment. While the branches are closed for walk-ins, you can give them a call and make an appointment and go in the branch. And of course, there's a lot of things you can do through the drive-through that I didn't even know, including opening an account. So that can be done. But go to renaissancebank.com, find the location nearest you, over 200 locations throughout the South ready to serve you, and they'll be glad to help. renaissancebank.com, understanding you, member FDIC. And now we turn to Cordelia Blake, and Cordelia is the CEO, founder of Koala Commerce. Cordelia, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, John.
It's great to have you. Why don't you give folks a little bit of info about you and Koala Commerce?
Sure. So I've been selling online and in the e-commerce space for over 10 years. Koala Commerce we do a couple of different things. One of the things we do is we're a boutique consulting firm. We work with businesses to help them maximize or sometimes start their Amazon sales. We tend to work with businesses that already have a product or brand. And since we are experienced Amazon sellers ourselves, with my partner and I each have over 5 years of experience selling both wholesale and private label products, we stay current on the ever-changing Amazon world. So we work with people on Amazon.
You said a mouthful there when you said you do it yourself, because that's really important, I think, in this particular part of the world, because the rules do change so fast, right? And so being there and selling yourself and knowing what's going on yourself is pretty important, I would think.
It is. I mean, Amazon is a huge ecosystem, and they have their own rules, some of which are written, and you have to know all those and be responsible for all the stuff they tell you. And then there's a whole bunch of unwritten rules, stuff that they don't tell you that you have to manage also. And I don't know how consultants who don't sell do it. I don't know how you could do it, because, the way that you write listings, the way that you deal with customer service, the way that you do product research and pay-per-click research, it's changing all the time. So one of the ways that we stay up to date with that is we have our own gift lines. We have a couple gift lines of products that we sell.
Now, I'm fascinated by the idea that there's a bunch of unwritten rules. I mean, particularly for a company this big. I mean, usually you would think, the bigger the company, the more structured they are. And, so what's the deal with that? I mean, what parts of e-commerce on Amazon are mostly unwritten?
Well, first of all, the way that you optimize your Amazon listings is completely not written. So in order to get your listings found in search and to optimize your pay-per-click, Amazon does give you guidelines, but in terms of what actually works, their guidelines are pretty much useless. So a lot of it is a mix of trial and error and just rigorous testing, because their algorithm is constantly changing. And so what worked 6 months ago just doesn't work today. And so you have to keep staying on top of that. And Amazon, in Europe, actually, they're trying to sue Amazon for this because they consider it anti-competitive practice, but they don't tell us how to do that. We have to figure it out.
So it's not so much the rules in terms of how you sell. It's more how you optimize your experience on Amazon then.
That's part of it. I mean, yes. And then there's a lot of rules too that people don't understand. Like one of my clients, they had a customer contact them about something really trivial on like a Friday afternoon. And luckily we check their account 7 days a week and they hadn't responded. Now, Amazon has a rule that you have to respond to every customer inquiry within 24 hours or it hurts your performance, and you can actually get your account suspended from that over time.
Wow.
They don't care if you're sick. They don't care if it's Sunday. They don't care if it's a holiday. They don't care. They want you to respond to those customers within 24 hours. Now, you can respond, which is what we did, and say, hey, our office is closed right now. We'll be happy to get back to you on Monday, right?
Right.
But then let's say that happened on a Saturday morning and the customer then responds and says, oh, great, I'll talk to you on Monday. Well, then I've got to respond within 24 hours to that saying, wonderful, we'll see you on Monday, because you can't let 24 hours go without a response because it's a completely automated system. And for a company that's used to being able to deal more directly with their customers, they don't understand why they can't just be like, but it was a weekend, or so-and-so was out sick, or call the customer up and be like, hey, we're really sorry. Here's a free, widget for your trouble. You can't do any of that on Amazon. You have to stay on top of these little things. And people don't understand too, which rules they should follow and which rules they have to follow, or they can get their account suspended.
Cordelia, normally I ask this question later in an interview like this, but I feel like I ought to ask it sooner just to get, because I would think different kinds of companies have different experiences and different ways of working on Amazon. So I guess the question is, what kind of companies do you typically work with in your practice?
Well, we tend to work with brand owners, companies that have their own branded products. Sometimes we work with larger resellers where they are kind of a distribution company where they distribute really, really large products. We tend to work with what's called third-party sellers, which means that they have their own account, they own their own inventory, they pay Amazon fees, but they're still the owner of their products. You can also sell on Amazon through something called Vendor Central, which is where you actually wholesale your products direct to Amazon and then they sell them. That's rarely a good idea, although every now and again it is. So, but we tend to work with people that are third-party sellers. And that can be everybody from like somebody running the business out of their garage to multi-million-dollar companies. We had one client that's a $500 million a year company. They're a third-party seller with the same $39.99 account a month that we have. So one of the great things about Amazon in a way is it's an equalizer, but it's really hard for larger companies because they don't understand why they have to deal with this crap. Like, because they're just used to, they're used to like, we're big. Why are we, why are we having to do all this little detail stuff,
Sure.
And they don't like that, like the person responsible for the Amazon account is responsible for those customer service emails and the pay-per-click mistakes. And Amazon doesn't care that you're the CEO of a $500 million company. You still have somebody on your team has to respond to that or you're going to get your account suspended. And so there's just this level of equalization that a lot of larger companies are really not accustomed to.
And that can be helpful, I guess, in a way to smaller up and coming sellers on Amazon that want to make a niche for themselves, right?
Yeah, it can. I mean, depending on what you sell, and that's another thing larger companies sometimes struggle with that we can help them with, but they're like, why is this no-name brand beating us? And it's like, well, it's because they know how to do Amazon and you don't. So they came in and all they know how to do is Amazon, and they can import their products directly or have them manufactured directly. They're not selling in Home Depot and Lowe's and wherever. They're just direct to Amazon and they know how to do it. So it can be an equalizer, but it also can mean things that, sometimes you have companies that they don't need to make money. And so you're competing, having to profit with a company that doesn't need to profit. And that's really tough to do.
We're speaking with Cordelia Blake, and she's the CEO of Koala Commerce. Now, Cordelia, I guess overestimating the impact of their size is one mistake big companies make. But talk about, because you just mentioned that, but talk about some of the other mistakes that brands make when they go and try to sell their wares on Amazon.
Sure. There's a lot of practices that have evolved over time in kind of the retail world that were sort of geography based. Like you have a person who does your Georgia sales and you have a person who does your Texas sales. But that doesn't really apply to Amazon. And so a lot of companies, they don't change their business model. They just kind of add Amazon into their model that's based on geography. And it really ends up hurting their entire business because then they've essentially got whoever's got the Washington account, the Seattle account, outsells everybody, and they're outbidding each other within the same company because all these sales reps are trying to get the business instead of looking at a unified system that would serve everybody. The other thing they do is, the wholesale model used to really work. My job is to go manufacture widgets, and I'm going to go get those made in wherever, and we're going to make them, and our cost is $1.50, and we wholesale these for $4 each. And then, Macy's and Target and Walmart and whatever, all these different places can then buy them wholesale from us, and they sell them, and we don't have to deal with that. That's not our department. Our department is getting this thing made. That business model doesn't work anymore because you need to control the entire sales process from creation of the product to getting to the customer. And Amazon, you can do that on Amazon, but a lot of companies, they don't want to. They're like, oh, no, we don't do that. We just but then you end up with like 10 wholesalers that are all then trying to kill your pricing on Amazon. And they're not representing your brand. They're not representing your branding message and your branding identity. They're not helping you present your business to the customer. And so you lose this huge platform for communicating with your customers. So and you also usually kill your prices too.
So you work with brands that obviously need help on Amazon. I mean, I guess, not sure exactly how to ask this question, but I've got to think that there are some brands that may have really messed it up so much on Amazon, they may almost need to take a break or something. I mean, I guess at what point are you beyond redemption on Amazon, if you will? Does that make sense?
It does. And what a lot of brands do, especially if they're selling in other places and making money, is they just put off the decision of how to deal with Amazon. And so it kind of depends if you're using our services or the services of another firm to help you build an awesome presence on Amazon, or if you're using it to help you clean up a terrible mess on Amazon. And we've done both. I can tell you there is no one solution for every business. Some businesses you can clean it up. Sometimes you're like, you need a lawyer. And the other thing that businesses don't like to hear sometimes, but I mean, they need a lawyer to get involved in getting their Amazon presence cleaned up. And they are not prepared for that expense, because we can't. There's stuff they just won't talk to people that aren't lawyers about. And you have to go through Amazon Legal to make stuff happen. And it's just, like I said, they have their own rules written and unwritten. And so you have to kind of navigate them, and they change. So it's a great platform because they have so many shoppers, and they do have economies of scale built in that you can take advantage of. But the same skills of how you would sell pretty much anywhere else really don't always apply to Amazon.
So I've been asking kind of negative questions. Let me ask a positive question.
You're like,
yeah, I know.
Run away.
Yeah, I know. I just jumped into the deep end of the pool, but let's talk about.
Actually, I'm going to add one more thing here. One of the mistakes I see companies make is they ask Amazon for help on how they should proceed.
Yeah.
And the problem is that Amazon is such a massive company that the people that whatever division they're in, they only know about that thing. So like if you're in Vendor Central, then those people only know about Vendor Central, and they're not trying to represent your brand. They're not trying to help you run your whole business and optimize your profit and optimize your whole business. They know their little teeny thing. And so I've even talked to executives at Amazon in one area that didn't even know other areas existed.
Really?
Like, literally didn't know that this whole division of Amazon existed. And they were like, really? So I'm like, yeah, I just read it on your website. I don't have like intel here, So one of the biggest mistakes companies make is if they're in Vendor Central, third party, however they go to Amazon for help. And I'd rather have you talk to 10 different consulting firms and get 10 different consultants to give you advice, because then you have a much more holistic perspective than if you ask 10 different people at Amazon for advice. And
that's not just what I hear you saying is that it really is because of Amazon's size and the fact they're like the old joke about, the blind folks around an elephant. I mean, depending on what part you're touching, they think they're touching something different, right? So, I mean, it's something like that, as opposed to Amazon has some sort of nefarious scheme to keep you, in a certain place or hold you down or something. I mean, it's really more the size issue than anything.
It's partially the size, and part of it is, Amazon is Vegas, right? They always get paid. So if you run ads, I get solicitations from Amazon all the time. Like, why aren't you running more ads? I'm like, well, because if I run as many ads as you tell me, we will lose money, right? Like you can't, they're like, well, if you want more sales, just run more ads. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a point at which if I run so many ads, I'm losing money on my products. Why would I do that? So they don't understand your business. And so they understand their business. Their goal is to grow their business. And so it's whether you think it's nefarious, not nefarious, whatever, Amazon's goal is to grow Amazon. And that is not necessarily in alignment with your own business goal.
Cordelia, talk about, I told you I was going to get positive, so here we go. Talk about the brands that do a good job on Amazon. What is it that makes them successful? Well,
what the brands do that are successful is they either have like a third party consultant like us, or they have an internal team that becomes expert at how to do Amazon. One company that's been really successful, I love because they're a huge success story. They're not a client. I wish they were, but is called Death Wish Coffee. And I don't know if you remember them, but a couple of years ago, they won a Super Bowl commercial.
Oh yeah.
And they had like the Vikings, and their whole thing with their coffee is, that it's like, I don't know, I think it has twice as much caffeine as normal coffee, but it's got like a skull and crossbones. Anyway, they're great. I've met the owner. It's a fantastic company. They're really good at Amazon, but the owner had his like guy that used to work in his cafe when they were just out of a cafe. And that guy became an Amazon expert full time. He was on the phone with seller support. He was on everything, but his entire goal was learning how to do Amazon to grow Death Wish Coffee. And he got really good at it. And now he's like an expert. So, they had, and I'm sure he has more people on his team now because they've grown. But the point is that they dedicated somebody who, and the other thing that you have to do is dedicate somebody who has decision-making powers. Because this is kind of negative, but the other mistake I've seen big companies make is they'll take like a junior marketing person and be like, oh, you're in charge of Amazon. And that marketing person has no like corporate strategic experience or input. And so if they say, hey guys, we need to do this because this is hurting this and blah, blah, blah. They're like, whatever, you're a junior intern. So I guess to turn that around, what was your question? What are companies doing right? Is
Right.
they allocate somebody who has vertical power. So they're at the C-suite level and down that can master Amazon and focus on it. And bring in the resources that they need, whether they're graphic design or writing or whatever they need, or become that resource. But they really let that team, whether it's a team of 1 or a team of 100 or however many, just focus on that business. And they learn how to work the Amazon system. Amazon has this program called Brand Registry, where you essentially become known by Amazon as the owner of your brand. You let them, show them your trademark and stuff. And there's a way to master brand registry. And again, it just takes this focus of allowing your staff to do that and pay attention to it. And having somebody at a senior level also understand Amazon. So that's what I see brands doing right. I mean, they need to have somebody who's either like the CFO or the COO or whatever one of your C people, like who gets it, because then they can really integrate the kind of micro detail that you need for the Amazon with the macro level decisions that impact your whole business.
Folks, we're here with Cordelia Blake, and she is with Koala Commerce. So I want to talk about, you mentioned having an outside consultant, and that's really important if you don't have someone internally. So that obviously I'm going to get the spotlight on you. Talk a little bit about what that means in terms of hiring somebody like you. I mean, what gaps, other than just the Amazon knowledge, which is obvious, what gaps do you fill for a brand that wants to build their exposure, build their sales on Amazon?
So we do a couple different things. So we're a boutique firm. So we tend to work with just a few clients at a time rather than have like a really large consulting practice. And it's primarily my partner and I, and then we have a few other people we can bring in if needed, but it's a smaller company that we can refer out to larger companies if people need it. But this is what we do. So one thing we can do is we can work with, let's say you're like, all right, we've got these people, they're definitely going to run it. We can work with them at the beginning to really help them come up with essentially a business plan for Amazon, understand why we have that business plan, and then help them execute it in terms of whether it's, sometimes that looks like us checking the account 7 days a week and making sure they respond to emails when they're supposed to. Sometimes that looks like training. Sometimes that looks like accountability. Like, okay, you said you were going to learn how to do these 3 things this week. Did you do that? Did you, sometimes it looks like teaching them how to change their fulfillment operation so that they're able to fulfill orders and enter them into the Amazon system properly. Like, it really depends on the client, but we can kind of work with them more as almost like a coach, where we really help them through the process of taking ownership of that business. The other thing we can do is we can do a lot of the business for them. Now we don't provide fulfillment. So we don't have like warehousing or whatever. So if they don't have that, we can help them find a third party provider who does that, but we can help them manage the business part of Amazon. We can help them optimize their Amazon listings so that the keywording and the writing and the pictures and everything are just the best they can be. We can help them with pay-per-click campaigns. And the big thing I would really encourage businesses to do is, whether you use us or somebody else, is get somebody to do a report that explains to you how to maximize your business on Amazon. Because so many companies make decisions about how to do Amazon that is not at all based on actual data. And then you try to tell them that you could do that. And I've had several companies decline that. They don't want to know. They just want to do it this way. And we're like, but this way is the least profitable way for you to do Amazon. And they just had some guy had golf with some guy and told him to do that. And then they made that decision, and it's like, we can do, we're not asking you to believe us. We'll show you the data as to why you should do this way, or we'll give you options. Like, these are 3 different ways. This is what happens if you do this way, this is this way, and this is that way. And then you can really integrate it into your corporate strategy. So whether you have us do that or somebody else, I really encourage businesses to do that, because analyzing that data, if you don't understand how Amazon works, and just knowing what data even analyze, is really difficult.
It sounds like an engagement with you is, or in terms of the way you work with customers, has a limited time frame. Is that case? I mean, you basically get folks up, going on Amazon, get their people educated, and then you're on to another customer. Is that the way your engagements typically work? That has
been how it's been. I mean, we're open to more of a long term if people need that, but larger companies, it really works best because it does have to integrate so deeply into how they operate their business. I think it works well if we help them run an effective business on their own versus just completely take it off their plate. Plus you have the boutique component where, if you need a company that can just run your whole Amazon operation 100% and say you're a, $100 million a year company, then we would probably send you to a larger firm that could take care of that.
Gotcha. Do you have to be, you mentioned the internal commitment that a company has to have, to really make it work, even if they've got an outside consultant like you. Do you need to be a certain size company before you can be really successful on Amazon to have the resources, the internal resources?
It really depends. So there's companies that are garage-based small companies that are very successful on Amazon, and that's all they do is Amazon. And then there's other companies that are, it kind of depends what you're selling, what niche you're in, what industry you're in. You can definitely have smaller companies that can do really well on Amazon. And then sometimes you have large companies that really struggle because maybe there's a million other companies doing exactly the same thing for them at half the price. So it really kind of depends on exactly what your situation is. There's people that, with $5,000 can start a big company on Amazon. And then there's other, companies that already have established brick and mortar wholesale distribution businesses that can't hack it on Amazon. So it kind of depends.
What that would imply to me, and this is a question, because I may be inferring something that's not right, but what that would imply to me is that there's some larger companies that have a diverse product line, that they might have some products that would do awfully well on Amazon with the right resources and intelligence brought to that product. And some products, it just wouldn't matter how much effort got brought to it. It's just not the right product for Amazon.
Yeah. So you want me to give you an example?
Please. Yeah, please.
Okay. So let's take a screwdriver. That's like a relatively simple thing. Everybody in America and the world, probably like almost everybody has a screwdriver or needs one. So a screwdriver, if you get that made internationally, I'm going to just round off the cost of production of a screwdriver to $1. You could probably actually get it made for less, but let's just say it's $1 to get it produced in a factory. Now that means you've ordered 5,000 of them. That's not for one, but your cost per screwdriver is $1. Let's say you sell that screwdriver for $6.99. It is really hard to make money selling things for $6.99 on Amazon because the fees alone, it just eats it up. Like, I don't even like to sell anything for less than $20 on Amazon. Okay. Because it's just, you cannot make money because by the time you pay for shipping and Amazon fees and referral fees and all that other stuff, it's like almost impossible. Now you can take your $1 screwdriver and sell it to Ace Hardware for $3, and then they sell it for $6.99, and then everybody's making money in that level of transaction. So that would be an example of a company that if all they ever did was sell like screwdrivers, then Amazon may not be for them. But now I might come to them and say, all right, well, let's do a bundle of screwdriver with rainbow handles of different sizes and different you just change out the little things and get the Allen wrench one and the Phillips head one and different sizes, and it's magnetic. And then you get one that has a flashlight on it so that when you're screwing something in, you can actually see what you're doing. And so now you've taken a routine screwdriver and you've niched it. It's a rainbow colored handle, so it appeals to LGBTQ. It's got a screwdriver. Or maybe it's pink, or maybe it's orange, or maybe it's some other color, right? You're taking it and making it appeal. Maybe you're doing it as a kit for people, their first apartment. And so you're going to give them a suite of tools, and then you're getting up to that price point of $20, $25, and your cost is up to maybe $6 because you're selling 6 different things instead of one. But now there's profit in there. You've niched it down to appeal to a certain community and customer. And you're actually, able to grow that piece of your business. So that's something that, like, if you called Amazon, they'd just be like $6.99. You're going to lose money on that. They're not going to talk to you about how to expand it and how to niche it down and how to make it into a bigger product offering, so that, or maybe do a set of 10 so that, you're buying 10 screwdrivers for your office and everybody gets their own or whatever. I'm just kind of, making that up, but that's how you can take that. That would be a product that you would say, forget it. It's not even worth doing, and making it worth doing. I can answer your question.
No, that you did, and that's a great example. But what that really segues into is a question I did want to get to, which is if you're able to talk about a success story. I mean, you don't have to use their name, but unless you just are able to or want to. But what give us a success story. That was a great analogy, but I know you've been successful at this for a long time. So talk about somebody you've really helped do well on Amazon.
Sure. So one of our great clients, and their testimonials actually on our website, Blackhawk, but they came in, they're a huge distributor of tools and safety equipment, and they had never really done Amazon. They tend to work with like factories and, they'll come in and provide all the safety equipment for a factory or a whole manufacturing company. Right. And so they were like, well, we have all these contracts. How can we sell this stuff online? And that was a case where you had a lot of people who knew Amazon in the space. So take a yellow safety vest. If I have my factory, I'm going to want everybody to have 3M safety vests because that's the best. But if I'm buying a yellow safety vest on Amazon so that when I dig a hole in my yard, nobody hits me, I probably don't care if it's 3M or if it was cheaper on Amazon. You know what I mean? Like, you're not as brand conscious when you're just a regular consumer. So we worked with them to figure out how to strategize their whole strategy that they used for this completely different kind of sales experience to take it to a consumer-based model. We also helped them figure out how to, there's bookkeeping changes, right? Like when you're used to selling, okay, John, we just sent you $100,000 of sales of safety equipment. Here's your invoice. That is different than, okay, now I need to generate 500 invoices for 500 different transactions for that same $100,000 of product. So we helped them integrate that into their accounting system. My business partner is awesome. Her name is Judy Durbinski, and she's amazing. But she has a background in accounting and HR. So a lot of what she does when she works with clients is help them figure out how all this stuff integrates into their corporate systems. Now, like, I'm a renegade entrepreneur, so corporate talk doesn't really, I don't speak that language really well, but she speaks it perfectly. So we help them with that. How do they take a whole company that was based on doing large corporate purchase orders and turn it into a company that can process individual orders? So we help them, and then we got their staff trained, and they are off and running.
Wow. That's awesome. And telling that story was helpful because you revealed some further aspects of selling on Amazon I mean, the accounting piece of it, for example, that it can be awfully complicated if you're not prepared for that. So that was a great story.
It really depends. I mean, that's why it's hard to broadly say, well, who do you help? It's like, it really depends. If you're like, let's say you have your own Shopify site and you already do customer transactions, well, then making the adaptation to add Amazon isn't really going to change the whole way you do business. But if you're used to doing large transactions and you don't do customer things, then that is going to change the whole way you do business.
Sure.
And it also, they're not really, a lot of these, bigger companies, they don't necessarily understand how to talk to their customers. They're used to their customer being the buyer for a large factory, not a buyer for one screwdriver. It's a completely different way of communicating.
Well, this has been great. Cordelia Blake, I mean, I'm glad we've got a hard stop, because I'd keep you going here for a while, because this is fascinating to me. But I know there's got to be some folks that have heard what we're talking about and think I need to be in touch and have a conversation. It sounds like that's really what they need to do with you. So let's give them your contact information. How do they be in touch with you? And I know you've got some resources out there as well you may want to tell folks about.
Sure. So I'm on all the things. So I'm on LinkedIn, and my name is Cordelia, Cordelia. I'm sure you'll have it in the thing, Blake, Blake. But you can find me luckily I have an unusual name, so there's not that many of us out there. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I'm not that great at Instagram, but I am there. I also have a YouTube channel, which is called Cordelia Blake TV. And it's all about Amazon and e-commerce. And I have both content for kind of individual garagey style businesses to large companies. I have a couple of Facebook groups for people who like to do Facebook. I have a one about how to build your brand on Amazon. We have one on Walmart, how to do Walmart fulfillment services. And then we have a private members group. So we have a lot of resources out there. So the easiest place to find me is you can go to koalacommerce.com. You can also just put my name in, cordeliablake.com. You can hunt for me on social media. And I love talking to people and learning about their businesses. So if you want to schedule a call, and I'll certainly be happy to see if I can help you out, or help you out, whether it's me personally or I connect you with the right resource.
Awesome. Cordelia Blake with Koala Commerce. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Folks, just a reminder that you can find our shows on all the major podcast apps. That would be Apple, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. We're on all of them, folks. North Fulton Business Radio is the search term to find us. Or you can go to northfultonbusinessradio.com and find an archive of all our shows, now over 250. And we would love it if you would go on social media, like us, support our shows there. It helps folks find the show and support the good work of Cordelia and the other folks that we've had on our show over time. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, North Fulton BRX. I think we're on Instagram too, but we don't do that very well. But anyway, that's another subject. So, for my guest, Cordelia Blake, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.